camera 1, camera...
Yeah, that's 1.
That's 1.
Mm-hmm.
And... Okay. Well, welcome, Kevin.
Well, hi, Jason. It's nice to see you.
I know, it's been a while. We've been pretty busy. I know I have.
Yeah, we had a lot going on lately. When was the last time we did the live stream? How long ago was that?
It had been at least a month or so.
Yeah, back in June we did the field day, and then after that we did our first live stream, and now we're on our second live stream.
Yeah. So we just got everything up and going. It looks like people are chatting. Let us know if our audio or video is crap.
Yeah, let us know if our live stream on audio for your ham radio sounds really bad. Yeah, that would be good to know before we got too far into it.
Yeah, because the idea of this video is talking about audio. This weekend, if those that are not aware, is California QSO party. So jump on your HF rig if you're around and you have time and try to work some California stations. Should be fun. There's definitely a lot of people in Six Land, meaning if you're 6, you're in California, or at one point you were. But
yeah. Oh yeah. By the way, those of you who live in this part of Northern California, Solano County, Yolo County, in Benicia, October 17th, our friend Gordon West is going to be putting on a lecture. And he'll be in Benicia on October 17th. And you can go to the Vaca Valley Club radio site, the W6VVR website, and there's a flyer there, and you can find out the exact times and the exact location there on, I think it's 2nd Street at the Presbyterian Church. I think they're letting them use their room because there's a lot more people going to be there. And it's a great thing. It's free admission. So Gordon West, October 17th. 2 weeks from last night, I think. So look for that at the Vacaville Radio Club website.
yeah,
Actually,
absolutely.
the Benicia Amateur Radio Club, they are hosting it. So also the Benicia Amateur Radio Club website, they have the info as well for Gordon West.
All right. You know, I just realized I'm about to fire up this presentation and I won't be able to see comments. Because I only have one screen, but that's not a big deal.
Oh, no.
I can.
No.
I can hit it over here. All right, so let's switch it to my laptop. You should be seeing that there. Today we're here to talk about mixing boards and mics.
That's right. It's how to get some audio into typically your HF radio, but it's not limited to your HF radio. You could put it into your UHF or VHF radio. You could have a boom microphone, a foot switch, a trigger, whatever you want on any of your radios.
Yeah, so I've been experimenting with this for about a year, and I definitely have had some advantages, being I know Kevin and what Kevin does for a living. And so it's been a lot of fun to bring a mixer into the shack. Exactly what Kevin just said, plug it into one radio, several radios, as well as into a computer. Maybe you're into gaming. I mean, the options are endless, what you can do with a mixer. And they're really not that complicated. A lot of times mixers just have more channels. So what we have today in front of us is the one on the screen, and I'll give you an overhead shot. This here is a well, Kevin, why don't you tell us what's in front of us? A 4-channel looks like.
Well, it's a Mackie Pro FX 4, and it has 2 microphone inputs right here, and it has a couple of more stereo inputs over here, which are line level inputs, which is a real typical mixer that we like to use for the radio stuff, because tonight we're primarily going to be talking about analog audio. We're going to be coming out the analog outputs off the mixer and going into the analog inputs on your HF radio or your VHF radio. We're going to talk a little bit about how to make that connectivity here in just a little bit.
Yes. I'm doing a lot of things over here. back to the computer. All right, so let me just read over the bullet points. Looks like we kind of covered everything there. Also, we wanted to give you an option, and once I finish everything with the video tonight, I'm going to put all the links. I'm not sure if I can share a slideshow or not. I'll see if I can't put the slideshow somewhere in a cloud. But the idea is we want to show you stuff, talk about stuff, and then as well as be able to click over and give you a price, tell you exactly where to buy it. Now, of course, in our first video introduction of our live streams with Kevin and I, we did recognize and chat a little bit about Kevin does own this company here, Ken's Pro Sound.
Yep, full disclosure. Yes.
Yeah. He's been doing it for years. And matter of fact, that's how ham radio TV kind of came about and has gotten things working as fast as we did. So, what we have in front of us here is this Mackie mixer. $150 is the price. This is the website. We'll put links and descriptions down below. Ken's Pro Sound. You'll know it when you're there because it kind of has a catchy orange along, in a lot of the different web pages. But feel free to reach out. They've got the phone numbers listed right here. They've got their emails listed. And if you're interested or have any questions about the products we're looking at or going over, feel free to reach out. So then jumping back to the slideshow. So at this point, Kevin, did we want to give a brief overview, since this might be the first time, and the idea of this video is we're not really here to talk to expert audio guys. The guys have been doing it for a while.
That's right.
This is for the guys that got the radio, they got their antenna, maybe they're on in power, and they're like, I don't want to pick up my mic anymore. I want to be able to utilize a boom. Utilize a foot switch, maybe a hand switch, such as something like that. So let's just go over quickly some of the features and to better understand what is on this mixer.
Let's do this. Let's start with the mixer. The mixer is just a way for you to get multiple inputs into your radio. So in this particular instance, we're just going to use a microphone number 1. And it gives you your channel strip, and which has your bass and treble control. Different mixers have different controls. Some have a bass and a treble. Some have bass, mid-range, and treble. And some have more complicated or more advanced controls. As well as you have your monitor send on it, which is a monitor send that gives you an extra output so you can send your mic audio to a different spot. And we're going to go over that as well in real short time here. Also, this is your main volume and for your channel 1 input, and that obviously dumps over to the main output, and then the main output, which we're going to take off the top of the mixer, and we're going to send that over to the connectivity that gets it into your radio. So, and by the way, I just wanted to let everybody know, we just happen to be using this Mackie mixer. If you have a Behringer mixer laying around at home, if you've got an old Mackie mixer laying around, if you have a Soundcraft or many others that are out there that you're comfortable with, but a lot of the mixers that are available to you are the Mackies, PVs, Behringer, Yamaha. They're all out there. And we're happy to help you learn how to connectivity to any of those. And tonight what we're going to show you kind of goes with all of them. So you don't have to use this mixer. Another thing too, we're not going to focus on the USB connection into your computer tonight. Like I said earlier, we're going to focus on connecting it to your ham radio, because that's what we're going to do. We're going to get our microphones into our ham radio, which also allows you to plug things like your computer, which has your SDR receiver. So if you're receiving the audio and you want to put it into your ham radio, or you recorded something and one of your friends on the air and you want to get it back into your system because your particular radio doesn't do that by itself, you can do it with the mixer. And the microphones, I think what we want to start off with is the connectivity, and we'll go through that, and then after we get done with the connectivity, we'll talk a little bit about microphones. And
well, that's actually coming up next.
I
have some sort of order to this.
We have bullet points.
But I wanted to quick flash over to the people that are leaving comments. They say everything looks and sounds great. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you. We are working on replacing the talent.
Yeah.
Soon.
Don N5SKT asked a great question, which we're going to get to as we progress through this tonight. But he's curious to know, hey, is it going to work on an ICOM, a Yaesu, a Kenwood? And so we'll get to that in a little bit. Yeah.
And we're gonna we're gonna get to it in a little bit, but you watch that show Lost in Space where the robot says, "Warning, Will, warning, danger." Well, that applies to microphone connections, and we're gonna get to that. All of those brands we can do this to. We just have to be careful how we do it and pay attention to the wiring diagram so we don't make a mistake. So anyways, let's move on. What are we going to talk about next?
All right, yeah. So now that we've covered the general of a mixer, I just want to touch on microphones. So Kevin, in your opinion, as a ham radio guy, probably in a garage or a room, would you want to use a condenser or a dynamic?
You know, that's a question we get asked all the time, and the answer is whatever one you like the best. I mean, there are some great sounding dynamic microphones out there. Most of the brands make them. They sound great. But in today's market, there's a lot of great sounding condenser microphones that are very cost effective. For example, right now we're talking on the AKG P120. I believe it's the P120. And what's pictured in your on the screen right now is the AKG P120, and that's a $99 microphone. And it's a great microphone. It's a condenser microphone. It has a 20 dB pad built into it. It has a high-pass filter. And what that really means is that switch on there, you flip it, and it cuts some of the bass out. Matter of fact, right there, bass filter, 300 hertz at 6 dB per octave. So if you get somebody who's really getting into the microphone and has a really deep voice, and you really don't, he's looking at the low level over there. We actually have a makeshift studio here at Ham Radio TV.
I was seeing if he was blowing it and peaking it.
Am I blowing it and peaking it?
No, you're not bad.
All right, we don't want to splatter all over YouTube. That's just not good. So anyways, it's got a couple different switches on it to help you with your audio. It works. It has phantom power, and phantom power is what you need to make a condenser microphone work. Well, typically, you can't get a condenser microphone to work on your ham radio by just putting an adapter cord into it, because the phantom power is not wired correctly or the input to the radio is not designed for it. So often we'll put some kind of preamp. In this case, let's show up the mixer here. In this case, we're going to use this mixer as the liaison between your microphone and your radio. So it'll give you the phantom power. And there's a phantom power button on the back of the unit that puts the positive voltage to pins 2 and 3 on the microphone connection, and it operates the little impedance matching device that's in your condenser microphone. And your condenser microphone will then work well, and it'll put out into the standard 3-pin microphone jack. With all that said, that doesn't mean you have to use a condenser microphone. Often people have microphones available to them, especially if you've been in the music business, you're in a band, or you're the sound guy at the local volunteer theater, and you go, man, I got a bunch of microphones. Well, grab those microphones, plug them into your mixer, adjust the EQ, and experiment and see what sounds good. Now, with all that said, you can take a dynamic microphone that does not require phantom power, and you can get a adapter cable to go from your radio, hook it to the microphone, and in many instances, that's all you need to do, and it works really good. What we're going to talk about tonight, though, is the mixer interface that allows us to get multiple microphones, multiple inputs into the mixer, and allows you to get the audio from your HF radio. And I'm going to, from now on, we're going to talk HF radio, because a lot of guys and folks and gals too like to take their HF radio and they get good audio on the receive side of their HF radio back into the mixer. And sometimes people will use their SDR, and the SDR receiver off their computer goes into the mixer. So you've got a pair of nice speakers of whatever your choice. Some bookshelf speakers that sound wonderful, and you're able to listen to your SDR, your HF radio, and because you used a mixer, you're able to route the audio properly so you don't get feedback and you don't get distortion. So that was really long-winded, Jason.
Well, that's okay. It allowed me to jump in the chat for a while. I mean, that's why I picked you as my partner.
Oh, okay. Okay. I may have to take a break and go get a cheeseburger because I'm talking so much. I'm getting hungry.
All right. So there's one more piece of the puzzle.
Okay.
When you're talking about a mixer and a microphone and a ham radio, you definitely want to be careful that you don't introduce some humming or buzzing. And tell us more about what we're seeing now, the passive direct box.
The passive direct box is the device that goes between your output of your mixer and the input of your radio. And what we're really doing there is we're taking the mixer output and running it into this device that will mechanically and somewhat electrically isolate the two from each other. A lot of times you'll look at your wiring diagram on your microphone. There'll be a microphone plus or the hot wire. There'll be a microphone negative or the negative wire or the ground. So what we're going to do is go back to that first picture. Actually, can we go to the second picture? Oh, awesome. That is some 6-year-old drew that. It was me. It was me. And what that is what the inside of a basic direct box looks like. So the mixer input, you'll take the 1/4-inch output of your mixer and take a 1/4-inch cable. Here, let's show them a 1/4-inch cable right here. So here's a 1/4-inch cable. Maybe we can go to the overhead or something. So there we go. So the 1/4-inch cable will go to the output of your mixer. So I just plugged it into the main out, okay? Actually, I'm going to reverse this because this is a 90-degree one because it's so cool. So now we've got our yellow 1/4-inch cable. And now I'm just going to grab the direct box right here. Let me get it to the frame. So there's a direct box, and I'm going to plug into the 1/4-inch input on the direct box. So now what we've done is we've taken the signal from the output of the mixer to the input of the direct box. And let's go back to our little diagram there, Jason, on the computer, if we could.
Coming right up.
That one. So what's going on there is the 1/4-inch input is on the mixer output side. So that would be considered the high impedance input. And then you see the resistor and the switch. That's a 0, 20, 40 dB attenuator. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. And the next device in the drawing is a transformer, and that transformer isolates you between your mixer and your radio, and you'll see that the balance line output that's not grounded to anything is isolated, hooks to pin 2 and pin 3. So now, from that point on, we're going to take the cable, which we'll show you how to make in a little bit, but here's the magic cable. Let's get a better shot of the magic cable. So there's a better shot of the magic cable. This is the 3-pin female XLR, and it's going to plug into the 3-pin male right here. So now my audio is magically making it from the output of our mixer to the input of the direct box through the direct box transformer that's inside. Matter of fact, this direct box even has a little transformer showing you. It's almost the same picture. And then it goes into the connector, and the connector now goes to this. Happens to be a shielded Cat 5 cable right here. And this is what goes into radio. And we're going to talk how important this cable is. It goes into your radio. And also what we've done is this is a 1/4-inch cable. I didn't say that correctly. It's a 1/4-inch connector. It's a standard connector, and it fits, and here we go, the high-old pistol grip, and the high-old pistol grip can plug into it, and now I'm able to use the pistol grip to trigger my radio. So now if you look at that diagram that's on your screen right now, the push-to-talk button was the high-old pistol grip. It went over to the 1/4-inch connector, that I plugged in, and it goes all the way up to the direct box. Well, the direct box connector has 2 wires into it. The Cat5 cable, or otherwise known as the Ethernet cable, runs from the radio to the XLR female, and inside that plug is where we split apart the audio that goes to the radio, and we pulled the 2 wires off for the push to talk so that we made a nice, neat connection inside the connector. So we didn't have a ball of wire and tape that was outside. So what's really important now is you take the RJ45. So you see the RJ45 connector going up to the radio. This RJ45 connector, inside of it, we've taken the audio, the isolated audio, and we've taken the one side of the balance transformer and went to the negative audio on the radio, and the other side went to the plus or the positive on the radio, and that typically is the microphone input. And then what we did is we took the push to talk, which is the trigger that we plugged into the 1/4-inch cable. So this is your push to talk. So this metal out here is just ground. It's just a chassis basically of your radio. And the center conductor is your push to talk. So when you push this, it grounds it and it puts the radio in transmit, and you let go and it comes up. Now that I want to make sure, what connector is that, Jason?
So what you're looking at there, I brought it up on the screen, is on the left you're seeing there an XLR breakout.
We need to be careful. I need to say something right off the bat. That's not how we wired our XLR breakout. We did not ground pin 3 to pin 1. Ours is set up where pin 2 and pin 3 is floating intentionally so that you have a complete isolation. We are not grounding your microphone negative to the chassis ground. Just like when you plug your microphone into your radio and you're holding it in your hand, it's not hooked to anything else. So we electrically and mechanically isolated it with that 1-to-1 transformer. This is a way to do it, but it's not the way we're doing it. We're trying to get more isolation.
Okay,
now,
right.
my question is on the right-hand side of the screen, that RJ45 jack, what radio is that for?
So as someone alluded to in the comments, this is to a Yaesu FT991A, so RJ45 Ethernet, and that is what we utilized, pulling it from the manual to break down and understand what was what. And matter of fact, we also used the voltmeter just to kind of verify, you know. So essentially what we're looking at is pin 3 and pin 4 is how we wired our microphone. And then pin 5 and pin 6 is how we got the push to talk working.
Yeah, well, pin 3 is plus 5 volts.
That's right.
So we got to be, there we go. We got to be really careful. So can we talk about the wiring of the connector for a little bit?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So on the right hand side of the screen, we've got the. Can we put that? Can we put that down at the bottom?
Yeah.
Can we put that at the bottom?
Here, here, and here.
Wow! Don't you love technology? Okay. So, or you could reverse it, make it bigger. Can we?
And put us at the bottom.
Put us up at the bottom. Yeah. We need to reverse it.
Good thing we're amateur radio operators.
Yeah. There we go. So, and we should. Okay. We can see the connector, and I want to make this very, very clear. As a matter of fact, take my picture out of there. I want everyone to see that connector really clear. Please look at your pins and how it's oriented for this particular radio. Happens to be the Yaesu
991A.
991A. And do not assume that all Yaesu or any other RJ45 jack on a microphone connection is wired the same. Look it up and verify for yourself. Trust and verify. Okay.
Well, I mean, I have an 8900. That mic will not work with this.
Right. That's
and I won't tell you how I know that.
So yeah. So the secret is we don't know how Jason knows that. So we've said all this to say, look at the RJ45 jack and look at the numbers 1 through 8. See how it's oriented, and then you look and see where you're going to make your connections. So right off the top, I want to show you pin 1, pin 2, and pin 3 stay away from them. If you took your voltmeter and you put the negative side on the ground and you put your voltmeter and you looked at pin 1, pin 2, and pin 3, there's voltage on pin 3 for sure. That's the 5 volts that goes up to your microphone. Pin 1 and pin 2 are your up and down buttons. And I want to preface this statement with not all radios are wired like this, but there's many of them that are. Pin 1 and pin 2 are, when you push the up and down button, they get grounded. So they're in a high state. They may have 3 volts on them. They may have 5 volts on them. I don't know. You'd have to measure it. But the thing is, there's voltage on those. You do not want to ground them. You do not want to put voltage to them. And you do not want to put audio to them. So in this particular instance, pins 1, 2, and 3, we don't use. Now, let's move to pin 4 and pin 5. Pin 4 is mic ground. Pin 5 is the microphone audio, which we could consider that the positive side of the microphone. So if you look back at the wiring diagram, can we just pop that up? No, the direct box diagram. That one. You'll see that pins 2 and 3 are your balance line audio. So that's what's getting connected to your RJ45 jack. Let's go back to that. To pins 4 and 5. So we haven't grounded either one of those pins to our audio gear. The transformer is doing the work for us, okay?
Yeah.
So 2 wires are dedicated to the audio, and that's how we wired this jack, okay? So there we go.
I had loaded that in kind of as a stock image, so that is
Yeah,
my,
it is a valid image, and now you can bring our picture up.
That's what I was saying.
Yay! So the other image is a valid image, and there's a reason to do that, and we can talk about that a little bit later. It has to do with the dynamic microphone that you're plugging directly into the radio. But this way, we're trying to get your mixer. So let's go over it. We are going to ignore pins 1, 2, and 3 for this application. Pins 4 and pins 5, or we're going to consider that your balance line mic audio in that comes off the output of the balance transformer. Neither side are grounded, so we're not grounding your radio to something weird. The next pin is your push to talk, PTT. Your PTT pin most likely will also have voltage on it. So if you take your meter and you put the negative side on the chassis and you measure pin 6, you're going to go, well, there's voltage there. That's right. And when you ground it, it puts your radio into transmit mode. And the next pin is pin 7, which is most likely actual ground. And you can check that if you like, and you can go with a continuity Chester and check from pin 7 to ground on your radio, and most likely that's what it is. So when you ground pin 6 to pin 7, it puts your radio into transmit mode. So in the RJ45 jack, we use 2 more wires on pins 6 and pin 7. And we brought, on this diagram here, you'll see where we brought the pin 6 and pin 7 off the RJ45 jack. It came up to the XLR female, where it says splice. We did that, and I'll unplug it here so maybe you can see it. Inside this cable right here, we did it so that you can run the push to talk, came up, and then we used the red and the black wire, came back on this nice flexible cable inside, and we hooked it up to the push to talk. Okay? So there's only 4 connections out of the 8 inside this RJ45. So it's very important that you pay attention to your connections in your RJ45 jack. Now, we'll talk more about RJ45 jack here in a little bit, but in addition to the RJ45, I know there's got to be somebody out there that has the 8-pin round connector. You know, the Kenwood round connector, the Elenco round connector, and many other people use that 8-pin round connector. Now, I have it on my Kenwood TS940, which I have this same setup, and I use it all the time. So I looked my pins up and I wired it accordingly. We're not going to do an 8-pin connector tonight, but if you do, look it up, trust and verify. Make sure you got your pins right, because you got the same issue on the 8-pin round as you would on the RJ45. Different radios, different connections. So let's be careful.
Yeah, a few comments in the chat there. Don definitely points out this scares him, as it did me. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. We talked about it, but inevitably, Kevin and Elmer came over, and hopefully you have that as well in your local area. But one thing that he showed me right away is, he didn't have any magic wand to see if it was going to work. We just started with a voltage meter, just see what's what. We took our time and just made sure we knew exactly what pins, how much voltage, where we were sending them. So when you do your final connection, there should be no more worry about it.
Right. Don, was that his name?
Yeah, Don.
Hey, Don, and others. I'm not trying to scare you. What I'm trying to do is encourage you to have fun with ham radio and electronics, but I'm also encouraging you to trust your instinct, double check it, look at the schematic, and look at the wiring diagram before you do it, because there will be somebody that says, oh yeah, just plug that in, it'll work just fine. Well, before you plug it in, just double check it. And we're going to get into the RJ45 connection saga here in just a little bit. And we're going to talk a little bit about that more in detail. And if any of you have those type of questions, we're just curious, is the connection to the RJ45, is that what's scaring everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah, let us know.
I mean, it is smaller and a little plasticky and finicky. Personally, I was a little bummed. I mean, I do like Yaesu radios, but the barrel connection just seems so much more robust. I mean, even CBs have a barrel connection.
I personally like the 8-pin round. It exactly seems more robust. But you do not, there's no, for doing the RJ45s, we're going to talk about this. Here's a sample we're going to get into in a little bit. There's no soldering. For the less than the price of a soldering iron, you can buy the crimper. And then these connectors, you can buy, a little container of them. You don't have to buy 50 or 100 of them like we do. You could buy a handful, and we're going to talk about that later. Thank you. You can purchase a direct box, and we're going to get into some more cost-effective direct boxes here in a minute. We can give you, with the purchase of the stuff, some of these connectors. But you can use a very cost-effective RJ45 crimper. You can get these at home, something like this, Home Depot or Lowe's. Or you can,
$15? What do you think?
$15, and that's less than the price of a really good soldering iron, was what you would need to do the 8-pin round. You got to be proficient at soldering. So the RJ45 is kind of a good thing. And there's these. This is an RJ45 crimp. This is a professional version that you put the connector into here, and I'm not going to recrimp it, but you put it in like that, and then you crimp it, and it cleans the wires up for you on the out end, because we use the easy RJ45s. So for less than the price of a soldering iron, you can buy a really good crimping tool, and you'll have something to fix your microphone connectors and make your own jumpers and whatnot. And just be careful. That's all. Do we need to answer any more questions?
No. People are just kind of chatting a bit, kind of going along of what we're talking about.
Okay.
But so next up, I was going to show the let's see, cancel that and this one. So when I got all this hooked up, one thing I didn't have right away was this Heil trigger you see here. I don't know, I think it was $30-40, and I just thought, well, I don't know. I mean, it's just a switch. I mean, you could put a light switch on your desk and use that.
Yeah.
And one thing we where is that? Where'd that go? Is that on the floor? No, right here.
We have it.
So then Kevin mentioned something about, you'll see these other pictures, the red one and the other one on the far right, that other trigger. He said, hey, just go to an automotive store and pick up one of these, jump your car across a relay. Although good luck doing that nowadays, finding the relay and all that. So that's what I made. Let's see here. We'll do something like this. So that's what I made. I went out and I got this, $8 or so. I was, it feels okay in the hand. It has a decent pull. This does have a little lighter pull. After using this for a little while, I did end up buying this. That's one thing I can say is that Heil has the corner market for these hand switches. It'd be great to see another one made or out there on the market. But to finish it off, you just buy these little connectors, and this is a TS tip sleeve,
quarter inch connector,
and then that just plugs right into what we made here. And so that could be a foot switch, that could be a trigger. And earlier someone did ask about Vox, whether or not you can utilize Vox, and absolutely. Once you have the audio going into the radio, you could just simply bypass this with a rubber band, or you could make something else, a dummy pigtail, to plug it in so it just constantly keeps it held down. Then go into your radio's menu and go through all your Vox setups. You know, there's typically 3 anti-Vox, gain, and your delay kind of thing. That can be a lot of fun, but for me, I really like the trigger, being able to get on and get off a little bit faster for contesting, because there is a little bit of a delay sometimes when that relay is clicking off.
Yep. And a lot of the radios, you don't even have, you could leave this unplugged, because a lot of the radios, when you go into the Vox setting, it's actually listening to the audio. It's just listening to the audio coming off your mic or your mixer. I actually accidentally pushed the Vox on one of my radios, and I'm goofing around in the room going, what is that? And I looked over, and every time I made a noise, my radio was going in a transmit because I accidentally pushed the Vox button. So the short version is yes, you can use a Vox. Another thing too is a foot pedal. You can use you can modify a sewing machine foot pedal, the off and on trigger. You can also take a piano, a keyboard sustain pedal, which you can get those from Yamaha and many other places for as low as $10 or $15. And they come with a 1/4 inch plug on it. Matter of fact, we stock them. So I should have had one out here. So we'll put one of those up. So if you want to use a foot pedal, you can buy a foot pedal and plug it into this plug and sit there and have your boom mic or your stand microphone and push to talk with your foot. It's whatever your preference.
All right. So, I am getting there.
You're getting there. Okay.
Okay, so one thing I didn't click, it's apparent. Let me hit play. Is this right here. So we talked about the DI box. Definitely a good idea. And the great thing about it is you know, Kevin's got one here for sale for $13. So, you know, I have the tab still open. If we go back, we've got a beautiful mixer, 150, really nice microphone, $100, and 13. And then you're just left with making your own push to talk, or buying a Bob Heil for about 30 or so. And so that's kind of the investment. And the cabling we made ourselves, because matter of fact, if you go to Bob Heil's website, he will sell you a microphone and a cable that goes right into your radio. He does not have any kind of cables to work with a mixer. And so for me, right away, I wanted to get a mixer in there for a couple of the reasons we mentioned, multiple radios, but also obviously because I play with cameras and do some video work. And so while I am doing all the ham radio stuff, using the mic on the radio, the same mic, the same audio goes right into the camera. So I love that. And, you know, I'm sure there's plenty of other people that have thought about creating content and making videos. So it's just a little bit more of messing around a bit. And I think that's why we do this hobby.
Oh, it is. And by the way, this direct box that I showed you, this is a professional direct box, and these things are about $60, and you don't have to use it. I just want to kind of not reiterate, but just talk about the quality of the equipment. This is set up for the ham radio. We're not trying to get super full bandwidth for concert audio. We're not cramming some super high signal down the throat of this thing. So this $13 direct box right here will work just fine, because the bandwidth we're talking about, you know, when you pull your radio out of the box, a lot of the time the thing's set somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 hertz to 2.8 kilohertz or 3 kilohertz. If you bought the new ICOM 7300, which is everywhere, that thing's adjustable from really low. I don't actually know how it goes. How low does your Yaesu go? Do you even know?
No, I just talk.
You just talk. You turn
baby.
the knob on the display. It goes 100 hertz, 75 hertz, 50 hertz. It may go lower than 50 hertz. I don't know. But the high side, I was working on a 7300 yesterday, and I just turned the high frequency, and it went from like 2K all the way up to 4,000. Well, that's nothing for these boxes. And the amount of audio level, we're not going to distort this box. We're not going to overdrive it, and the frequency response is far greater than what we're going to need for our ham radio purposes, especially on HF. So with that in mind, you could use a $13 box.
Yep.
You could do that. And the $13 box, you could use a cost-effective cable, and I don't know what you can wire it up like we've shown you here. And that diagram actually is really interesting, and I want to explain that real quick. I
just did this today, me and my kids.
Yeah,
I stole their markers.
We're trying to do everything in crayon. It's great. So you'll notice the radio up in the upper right-hand corner. We talked about that. It has the RJ45 jack plugged into it, and it allows us to put audio into the radio, and it also allows us to trigger the radio for push-to-talk. And we've covered that. Now, you're looking at the 1/8-inch TRS, the little 1/8-inch stereo jack on the back of the radio. That is your audio coming off of your radio. And notice it's going into the line input on your mixer. You're like, why would I do that? Well, you see that speaker off to the left in your diagram. That speaker is typically a little powered speaker. It could be a small stereo, a powered speaker. And by the way, we've got the JBL little podcast speakers. We're actually going to pull those out on a really, I was going to say recent. That doesn't even make any sense. But a future video in a very near future, we're going to show you some powered speakers that sound awesome that you can plug into the output of your mixer. And now you're listening to your HF radio or your VHF radio, whatever's going into that mixer, you're listening to it on the speaker. And it sounds great. And then what you're able to do is take the audio from your computer and listen to it on that speaker, and it sounds great. And your microphone that you've hooked up to your mixer, notice the different color lines. The audio's going into your microphone and into your computer and into your radio, but not into your speaker in your local area, so it doesn't feed back. So what it allows you to do is it allows you to listen to your radio, listen to your SDR off your computer, and you're using the multiple controls on your mixer to do so. So let's touch on that real quick. Let's bring this picture up. Okay, so your audio comes in. Let me get my official pointer. Your audio will come in on your input strip, and you'll get your gains and your EQ set, and you'll turn your volume control up and your main up, and then it comes out the main jack, and your audio for your microphone goes into your radio. Well, at the same time, you might want that microphone audio to go someplace else, like into your computer, your streaming. So what you're going to do is you're going to use the monitor or auxiliary or effects knob. And in this case, we would use this auxiliary knob, and that's a separate level control. And then we would come over here and we would use our monitor send or auxiliary send, and that output would connect to our computer. So now we can turn this volume up and get the proper level into our computer and it not affect what we're sending out to our radio. And then at the same time, the receive audio from your radio could come into one of these other inputs, and it could go to the monitor or to your effects and go out your local speaker, okay? but you're not sending the microphone to the local speaker. You're just sending the audio from your radio. In one of these days in the near future, we're going to take a radio and we're going to actually have it set up, and we're going to demonstrate that how it works. We felt like tonight, just talking about the connectivity and the different components was probably quite a bit to do.
Yeah. Let's see. Bring this up. So you guys might not realize, or maybe you do, but there is a previous video. If I click this link, it'll take us to it. And this is... gotta watch my own commercial. So in this video, I touch on the microphone and some of the connection, as well as I go over some of the splicing. I do kind of a high speed to get through it all. Kind of going over some of what we just talked about, but then I actually do. I get on the radio and I operate. So I can back it up here. In this case, this is my mixing board. And what we're plugged into here is the Yaesu. You see here is the RJ45, and then here is the headphone. And that's going down to the mixing board. And then, you know, I'm also on the air, looks like 20 meters, and I'm rolling the camera. And so there is a video to go check out. It's fairly short. I just kind of go over that. But in this video, I kind of go pretty quickly over some of the hooking up of it. And as Kevin said, it looks like this diagram actually might not be 100% accurate, this diagram for how we did it. We did connect these two, but we didn't ground it.
Yeah, we did not. Yeah, we didn't ground it to the earth ground. So anyways, what else?
So check that out. Yeah, so let me get back over here. Let me dive into... So we spoke about the speaker, but depending where you're set up, the speaker is definitely great. You can really tell the difference in people's audio, especially if you're going to be doing some FM or some simplex. As far as HF, you are somewhat limited on how much you have there to listen to. As far as
yeah, you know, the average person is 2.8 to 3 kilohertz wide. You know, in the newer radios, they're much broader audio, and as they just sound so superb. But I have a older Kenwood TS940, and it's pretty much tightened down to about just under 3 kilohertz on the receive. I've actually tested, I've swept it, and it just doesn't, it won't go past 3 kilohertz. But I plugged in a large speaker with a little amplifier, very similar to what we do, and wow, the difference between the stock speaker or a little small speaker that's in the power supply and a larger bookshelf speaker that's nice, and there's many to choose from, and my little volume control on the mixer, it's night and day difference. If you haven't tried it, you could even just take the speaker and get the right connector, plug it right in the back of the radio. Yeah. I mean, that sounds good too.
But also, I just wanted to mention that, you know, maybe a speaker for your situation might not be very inducive. So, you know, I put some bullet points on. Sometimes getting those headphones and just canceling all the noise around you, you can really start pulling out the stations in the noise.
Oh, yeah.
Or maybe you're in a loud environment. There's something going on around you. My personal favorite is keep the wife happy. You know, she's not hearing it blaring. Mm-hmm. And with the mixing board, you plug your headphones in, and that gives you the ability to monitor your audio, because nothing's worse than putting something on your ears that you can no longer hear. I mean, you can just do this, and that sounds horrible. You need to be able to monitor your audio, and again, using the mixing board, you're able to monitor your audio, opposed to if you're just using headphones in your radio and then the mic. You might not have that functionality in your radio. Some radios do have a monitor functionality where you can hear yourself, but again, the mixing board, you can really just dial it around, and you know, you could even add a little bit to your voice if you wanted to, bass it up, make it more punchy, break the pile-ups. And then I just wanted to touch on the link here. Again, what we're just trying to create is a one-stop shop. These puppies are extremely nice. And if you have some headphones out there, quite honestly, you have to spend about $100 on a decent pair of headphones. I mean, the Apple AirPods sell for $150, and those are nice. Those are wireless, but they have nowhere near the audio quality you're going to get with a full cup around your ear.
Not to mention, if you guys drop us an email or give us a call, the toll-free number, you know, you can email us at Ham Radio TV or at the commercial spot. That's fine too. Tell us what you want. We'll put together a package deal, and we'll include the connectors and help you with it as well.
Oh man, the picture. Can I move that picture? I haven't figured out how to move the P&P over.
Yeah, we can, but it would take a moment.
Over there. Anyways, let me just drop the P&P. So also, some of you out there might have heard me on Discord. I'm fairly new to Discord. I like to watch Josh, their Ham Radio Crash Course. He comes on 7 here in a little bit. But after his live stream, he jumps into Discord. And that's a lot of fun because it's all back and forth. And guess what? You're all 20 over there. But what better way to get into Discord with really good sounding audio? And I do that with exactly the setup we've been talking about. And there's a couple ways to do it, but I went, and what's funny is Kevin said, well, you got to be careful of these cheap dongles because this was an Amazon purchase for $9. But it works. I couldn't believe it. It works. I am looking at something a little bit better, a little bit more pro. But what this does is it plugs into the USB, and then it gives you your analog for your headphones, and then I should back up, your analog for your mixing board, and then your analog for your speaker. And that would be the 2 wires I have drawn here from the computer to the mixing board. And that's how I do that right now with the Mac, just because these Macs don't have much of an audio in. They have audio out, but that gets tricky. Yeah,
basically it's a USB dongle, and we'll talk to you more about that later. The mixing console. So if you're going to buy a mixer, you might want to consider getting the one that has the USB already on it. And the prices, I mean, it's unbelievable. There's actually a Behringer one that I think is the same price as this, or really close to it, that has all these features, plus it has a USB. These guys make one with USB. Everybody does. So if you get a mixer with USB on it, it solves that problem. So you're able to take it and go right into your computer. And if you're going to want to take the USB audio, you can plug it directly into your, like, for example, if you're using OBS or something like that. Let's just say you're using a Logitech camera and you had the stock camera audio, and I don't want that. I got my cool ham radio mixer with all my microphones, and I want to get into my computer. Oh, I have a USB output. You take the USB output, plug it into OBS. It'll recognize it, and you turn off the Logitech audio on the microphone and bring up the USB audio, and it'll solve that problem for you too. So if you buy the mixer that has the USB output, all these mixers have analog on them as well. So you're basically getting 2 for the price of 1 if you're actually going to buy a mixer. Tonight's video was more along the lines of, hey, if you already have a mixer, do this. If you only want to hook it up to your ham radio, do this. And if you want to, or something like this, because you don't have to buy a mixer. You may have been in a band and have a little PV mixer hanging off to the side.
Garage sale, eBay.
Garage sale, yeah.
Yeah, mixers, you can get them pretty cheap if people don't need them anymore. But I just wanted to show a few people, if you own a Mac and like to pay overpriced for your computer, no. In the settings here, you would go to sound, and then here is your output input. So whenever you're playing with USB dongles, that's where you're going to need to dive in to make sure stuff is getting into your mixer. That took me a little bit to figure that out, but it should be fairly obvious. But that brings us to questions, and I have a final saying here. It's easy to sound good.
It could be, yeah.
It could be
easy to sound good.
So let's go to this camera. And so Don asks, are mixing boards sustainable to RF in the shack? Susceptible. Susceptible. So before Kevin answers, I will give you my experience. So far, no problem, except the external speaker. The external speaker came out with an RCA over to the speaker, and I was hearing a weird noise on 20 meters, 14 megahertz. And so after kind of looking at where it was coming from, and as soon as I turned the speaker off, because it's a plug in the wall speaker, 120 volts, I said, okay, there's something going on with the speaker. And in my little knickknack drawer, I reached over and grabbed a ferrite bead, the one that is a kind of a clamp over clamshell. And I took that audio cable and I went twice around it, because it was a pretty good diameter. Went twice around it, clamped it shut, plugged it back in, poof, gone, no more. So what do you think about the mixing board and running cables? I mean, it could pose problems.
It could. And Jason gave a great example of how the little plastic, was yours a plastic computer speaker?
Yeah,
plastic. Okay, yeah, mine was too. So if you get a real cost-effective plastic computer speaker, they're not shielded, and they don't have really any RF protection on them. So if you get any RF in the shack, or you're using an amplifier and there's extra RF flying around, you may have to put a couple ferrite beads on those things to calm them down. That's not necessarily what's going to happen to everyone. Something else that I try to promote and I encourage people to do, when you put your HF station together, do the best you can to put up a resonant antenna, the proper length coax, use a balun up at the antenna with a good quality one with a high common mode to help keep the RF from coming back down. Be neat in your station, and like I said, resonant things work better. So I found at my station, I had a 1,000-foot loop antenna, and I fed it with a ladder line, and I ran it into my shack, and I was operating on frequencies that weren't resonant. I was doing pretty much textbook everything right and wrong. I just did it. And there was times I had RF in the shack, and I said, well, it's the way I did. It's the way I did it. I knew better. So what I did is I stopped using the loop, because I think my neighbor crashed into that pole and knocked it down, because I came out one day and it was on the ground. So I went to my resonant dipole. I have a full-sized 80-meter dipole and a full-sized 20 and 40, and they're all fed from the same spot up there at the tower, or the pole. It doesn't have to be a tower. And I have a really good quality one-to-one current balun that's got a very high common mode. And then what I did, I sat down, and this is a whole nother video. We've got videos on that. You can check it out. I cut my coax as best I could to a half wavelength for 80 meters, 40 meters, and 20 meters. And yes, before I get any hate mail, I know that it doesn't land perfectly on every band. So I picked 40 meters, and it was dead on 40, and it was on the edge of the band or just outside on the other ones. But it's way better than accidentally winding up with your coax on some quarter wavelength multiple and going, oh, geez, I'm having a hard time with a bunch of stuff. So I did all that, and I put the isolation transformer in, hooked it up, and I have run, I don't do it very often, but I have run legal limit, and I run 700 or 800 watts often, and I've had no trouble. And I use this microphone right here, this exact microphone. And I ran into this same mixer, and I went out of that mixer, and I had even more stuff. I had a DBX 160 compressor limiter in line, and I had a EQ and a bunch of other dumb stuff that was just fun to play with. And I had no problem. But that's a very long-winded answer for, yeah, it could happen, but if you take care, it's going to be fine. There's hundreds and maybe thousands of operators out there that have done this, and they're doing just fine.
Heck yeah. So what I brought up on the screen to show everyone, I just took this photo today, but I forgot to put it in the slideshow. So that's what you're seeing is my shack in the garage. Homemade little table I built, poured some Schlacker on there. That was kind of fun. But anyways, there's that white speaker I was telling you about. So I got rid of RF noise on that with a with a bead, ferrite bead. And then there's the Yaesu. There's my mixing board. Here's my trigger and the mic, and here's the computer. Here's that little $9 dongle I was telling you that, it's cheap, but it works. And yeah, that's how I operate it. It works really good.
Do you have an amplifier hooked up?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
That's out of picture, I
I know,
guess.
yeah, but you've operated with your amplifier, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's
so-
another cable. Could have made the cable, but I ended up buying it. It was $16 on eBay.
Yeah.
The cable with a special Yaesu DIN connector going to the relay for the amp. But yeah, so that's what that looks like.
Some of this stuff you buy because it's convenient. Some of this stuff you build it because it's more cost effective. And some of it you build it because you're interested in electronics and there's some satisfaction in building something on your own. And maybe what you want is not exactly what is offered. Do you have anybody else have any questions that we need to address?
It looks like our friend Brian, KK6BXP, asks, is talking about advantage of microphone audio manipulation is using a compressor limiter using the effects loop. Oh, I think he was commenting.
Yeah.
I'm reading these slowly. We were back on the effects.
Oh, well, the compressor limiter that I was talking about, I go from the output of my mixer, between the mixer and my direct box, so that if I, lay into the microphone too hard, I have the compressor set so that I don't overdrive the radio. It's just, but some radios have that built into it, so you don't really have to worry about it. But yes.
Awesome. Well, I'll let you guys a few more minutes or seconds to ask questions, but that was about an hour, and
Yep.
I think we captured everything pretty good.
Yep.
If you're watching this later and not live, feel free to leave a comment. If you have a question for Kevin, call out Kevin's name so then I can email it to him and he can respond back.
Oh yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, I wanted to talk. Can we tell them about the connectors? We had guys talk.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I forgot. I don't want to forget about this. Now I got to put my glasses on so I can actually see it. So we made all this stuff, and what I wanted to share with you is, this is a RJ45 jack that we made for Jason's radio, and this happens to be a number 24 gauge stranded shielded wire. Okay, so and what we did is the shield is not connected up on this end. It's just a foil shield that's wrapped around it. And what you can see here's a piece I cut back. This connector is not complete yet. Here's the shield, and I would cut it off here. And what we did is we connected the shield to the ground of here, but it does not connect to the radio. So we're not contaminating the grounds. It just gives it a shield. And then this connector here, these are the what's called easy connectors. Okay, easy to make RJ45s. And the reason they're easy to make is because they push all the way through. So when you grab them, you can pull them all the way through. And what I like to do is I just messed this one up a little bit because I didn't pull them evenly. So you get them all in there. And what I like to do is with a little bit of extra wire, I just kind of pull them together, and this connector will slide all the way down. Now, I did not put these other connectors in because there's kind of an interesting thing I just kind of found out. So if I wanted to put these last two wires in, for those of you who care, this is just the, standard 462B or something. But here's the wire, and this is an easy connector, and I should be able to just take it and just push it through. And I can't. For whatever reason, some of the stranded wire I've found has the insulation is thicker. See, that's stranded, and I'm twisting this up really good. And then what I'm doing is I use the stripped wire, and it's lined up now, and now I'm able to just grab it, and now the wire came through perfectly. Okay, so if I did the last wire, I could do the last wire as well, and I could grab it and pull it through. I might even, we love our viewers, so I might waste a connector just to show you how the crimping works. Yeah, we'll splurge. We'll spend we'll spend 50 cents on you. So now I got that pushed up through there, okay? Jason's helping out with the camera there. Let's see if we can get a better shot. Is that a little better?
Yeah, I brought it in tighter.
We're gonna get it. We have 2 cameras. Okay, so there's a little better shot. So right here, I just pulled that stranded piece through, and now I just pulled it through like that, okay? So now they're all in there correctly, okay? So they're right there. So, and now I can just take it and I can pull them nice and even, straight up, and you could even, once you get it pulled out, you can even just push and pull with your fingers. You know, what I like to do is I like to take like I said, we don't connect the shield on this end, so I just, or the drain wire.
Stay a little lower with your hands.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Producer. So we'll push it up in there, and then I'll take it and I'll pull it out here and just kind of give it a little snug, and I'll push that. So now we're up in there, and then what I like to do is grab it and trying to get as much of the jacket up in there as I can. I should have done that before I pushed it in there. But now we've got it, the RJ45 jack is on there. So now, here's the thing. You can use a standard RJ45 jack crimper from Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever. Okay, let's just crimp it. I just crimped it. Okay, that's done. That made a connection, but didn't cut these wires off. This is the easy kind. Well, you could get a knife or an X-Acto knife or a box opener. You could line up. You could try to get them off. That's really hard to do. But for these easy connectors, you just get yourself one of these, put it in there, and that blade goes right up in there, and it cuts it off perfectly. So now that is done correctly. So now I have a stranded wire, okay, with the shield not connected, and I can go to this end here, and I can strip this end here back, get all 8 wires, identify my 8 wires, and I can make my connections. Now what I like to do, and we did on this connector here, is we identified the wire, what we wanted to use. So we put in here, we used the orange pair and the blue pair, the orange pair and the blue pair. So we used a twisted blue pair for our audio, which is a good thing to do. And then, so your audio line is not twisted up with some other control line. And then we used the other twisted pair for the push to talk. And the stranded, this happens to be 24 gauge stranded, shielded, which with these easy connectors and this type of the easy crimp, which you can get these at the hardware store, Amazon. This happens to be the ideal brand. I like the Ideal brand because they offer replacement blades, and they're just a high quality tool. I think I paid like $29 for this tool. But keep in mind, at $29, we're still cheaper than buying a soldering iron. A good soldering iron, a Weller WES51, which is a great iron with adjustable temperature. We'll do a soldering iron one. Actually, we have one coming up here pretty soon. It's a lot cheaper. So anyways, we're done with that. So the irony of this is I happen to have where did it go? Well, it must have fell off the table.
What were you looking for? Oh, right here, the black one?
The black one.
Yeah, here we go.
This is the same thing, but this is a Cat 6 cable. It's 23 gauge. It is solid conductor, and there's no shield. You can get this that's shielded as well, and these conductors are the same. So if you don't care about the stranded, which I did for a couple applications, this is a little bit stiffer, but if you don't care, you could get this stuff, and you can use this. I do recommend you get it with the shield, and you connect your shield or what's commonly called the drain wire back here to the ground on your system. That way it helps protect it from RF, but we're not contaminating our radio connections here by actually connecting it to the ground. So this wire fits perfectly in these connectors because it's actually thicker wire, and it's not stranded. And for whatever reason, I've found that the stranded wire with this brand of connectors is a little bit difficult to get through. But before we get any internet technology hate mail, we're not doing this for high-speed data. We're doing this for low-speed audio, so it kind of doesn't matter. This, if we were doing data, we'd stick to the way the data people tell us to do it. But we're moving the wires around in pairs, and I use stranded wire here and shielded wire just because it was convenient. And in this instance, this is not stranded and is not shielded, and I would recommend that you stick with the shielded cable. And even if you have to pull the wire through like I did, the stranded wire is great. It's more flexible in the radio room, and the shield protects you against the RF. And last but not least, for all you super techies out there, this is a little transformer. It's an isolation transformer. It's basically 600 ohms to 600 ohms. And if you really want to get into DIY, do it yourself, you can buy these little, we stock these transformers. They're like a couple of dollars. They're cheap. You order this perf board that has the solder tabs on the back, and guess what? You can get one of these boards that's twice as big, put 2 or 3 of these transformers on it, make up your own direct box for input and output and for multiple things. But that's another video, and it's much more detailed, and it's for you folks that like to build things at component level. But this is a baby transformer. It's low level, and it'll work for what we're doing. The transformers in here are physically about twice as big and handle a little bit more energy. But the reality of it is, $13 does the job. You could buy, 2 of these, 3 of these, and you get your metal case, your ground lift switch, your connectors, everything. I don't know how they build this for $13, but they work great. They work great. Anyways.
Well, great. Let me switch this here. It looks like all the questions are shored up. Don made a comment about get a FTP instead of a UTP Cat 6. I'm not 100% sure what that is, but I don't deal with a lot of Ethernet stuff or cables.
Yeah, it doesn't, for what we're doing, it doesn't matter. Yeah. What matters is does it fit this connector, and does it have a shield? You should use it. You don't have to use a shield, but to go back to an earlier question, what about interference from your station? You would like, it would be to your advantage to keep this thing shielded, because let me see if I can show it to you. Let's try it real quick. I'm just gonna, so right here we have the shielded cable. This is here we go. That is 100% aluminum shield that's around the cable. So this cable's completely shielded. And you peel it off, see? And then here's your drain wire, or what we call the ground wire. So this is the one we would cut off, right? And then we would put our RJ45 connector to go to the radio. And now at the other end of the cable, we would put this connector on and wire it like we showed you. And then we would take this drain wire right here, all right, and it's not connected to the balance side of this transformer. We would take this drain wire here and connect it so that you've got a shield. I mean, even if you didn't connect this drain wire on this end here, it's still giving you a level of protection just because this aluminum shield or aluminum foil is wrapped around it the entire length of the cable. Whereas this particular cable here, it's not like that. It's just dumb Cat 6 cable. So in your Radio Shack, it's much, much better to use shielded cable.
Very good. Heck yeah. Well, all right. I think that about wraps it up. Thank you, everyone, for sticking around.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us at Ham Radio TV.
Yeah, hopefully you gain some information about that, and maybe that sparks some interest about, experimenting with your own mixing board and microphones. If you're new to our channel, please subscribe so you're aware of when our next videos come out and what we're up to. I have a handful right now I'm editing, so I need to get through that. And there'll be more videos coming out.
Yeah, and if you have specific questions on this, drop us an email. We'll do our best to get in contact with you. I'm going to just come clean. I have not been able to answer all the questions from everybody personally. Jason's fielded a lot of them. We've answered some of the questions on the channel. Between my job, Ham Radio TV, the Ham Radio Club, and our families, it's sometimes it's difficult. But we absolutely want to do our best to bring that information to you and some level of support. We're going to really try hard to do that because it's a great hobby. It's great to get into electronics. It's great to play with the radios. And guys and gals, don't be afraid of this stuff. It's not rocket science. Just trust and then verify it before you do it.
Well, I was kind of thinking, I'll just give them your cell number.
Oh yeah, thank you.
No, I'm kidding. All right, guys, that's it. I'm hitting the button. 7-3. See ya.
7-3. Bye.